Welcome back to The Real Story with Jeanne Ives. In the hot seat in studio is Lieutenant Governor candidate Stephanie Trussell. Welcome to the program, Stephanie.
It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
So I had Stephanie on today because she had quite the interaction with the Teamsters Union at an event the other day. And I think it's interesting because I think everybody needs to understand how powerful these unions think they are as they continue to try and grab more power in the state of Illinois, specifically with Amendment 1. Amendment 1 I've covered in length on a podcast previously, but if you want to, just to refresh your memory, Amendment 1 essentially enshrines union rights in our state constitution, union rights that supersede any other right that any other taxpayer may have. So, for example, literally it means that you cannot diminish any of their economic welfare. You must ensure their safety in all cases in the workplaces. We already have workplace safety laws, by the way, but it is a power grab by the unions in this state. It would be the first of its kind in the entire nation. Look, these guys are prickly as all get out. I've dealt with the unions before, both the private sector unions, the public sector unions. These folks are not the nicest people when it comes to it. And you had quite the interaction with them just the other day. I want to get straight to Stephanie's story, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the Teamsters. So, Stephanie, tell us exactly what happened.
Well, this was the 19th annual charity event, the Teamster. Darren Bailey, my running mate, was invited. When he's invited to things and if his calendar's filled, they normally just slide me in, which is great. So we paid our $100 each, my driver and myself, and it was at a golf course, a really well-known golf course, and they went out to golf, and between 3 and 5 is when they had the luncheon, which we were invited to. And so normally when, as a candidate, you go to places and there's a contact person that tells you what the layout is, but this was a little bit different. So I was just told we just mingle. And so I saw another candidate, a Democrat, walking through working the tables. And as much as I love talking to people and have been on the radio, I get uncomfortable still. I'm getting used to this. And at a social event, I find it important to read the table because some people are there to golf and they don't want politics, and I get that. And so I just went around to the table. Hi, I'm Stephanie Trussell. I don't want to take up much of your time. I'm running with Darren Bailey. We're going to read Story, Illinois. Overall, some of them were honest. Well, hey, I'm a Democrat. And I said, that's fine. So many people gave me the thumbs up. One guy engaged me about right to work and how important it was for him. That's a very big issue for people that don't want to pay union dues. And so the climate was awesome. I had about 8 tables left. My goal was to hit every table. And at one point before the incident happened, a gentleman who was in charge came over and said, hey, I was hanging out with JB yesterday. And I said, oh, great. He said, he's got my vote. And I grabbed, it was such a friendly environment. I grabbed his arm. I said, oh, gosh, you must be in on the grift. How can you afford the high taxes? And we just had this great conversation, even though he was obviously supporting JB Pritzker. When I got to this last table, it was a full table, about 10 people. 3 of the people were standing. Everyone else was seated. And when I introduced myself, these 3 all standing together and immediately said that Darren was too extreme. And I'm so accustomed to interacting with people that may not 100% agree with me. I'm the oldest in my family. I was on the radio, and I always invited Democrats into the studio because I love talking to them. So I was, oh, my goodness, like I'm thinking they may have heard something that wasn't accurate, and I can talk to them about whatever policy they thought was much too extreme.
Okay, let me hold you right there for a minute because I think this is an important statement. First of all, it's very intimidating to walk up to a table where there's not really a friendly environment, but you're like, you know what? It's important to also have a conversation and not to neglect them either,
right,
or not to bypass them, to just offer, like you had Ben work in the room before, to offer your sentiments, right? And if they don't want to hear from you, fine, whatever. But then the other thing that's very respectful about what you're doing is to not engage people in a conversation about important policy topics is to show them that you don't respect them. To engage them is to show them that you're willing to have a conversation with them. So you went over there, friendly, willing to have a conversation with folks. Disrespect would be ignoring them, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so
and
go
I
ahead.
had to keep reminding myself we were invited here, so obviously this is a place that should be welcome. We
Right.
paid our $200 total. And so right away, they started screaming that Darren was too extreme. And as I said, I thought maybe they had heard about something that wasn't accurate. And so I was just being my normal self, like, oh, wait, well, so tell me, what policy is too extreme? One woman, the woman, 2 men and a woman, she screamed out reproductive issues. And I am not exaggerating. In about 3 seconds, they went from screaming that Darren was too extreme to all three of them in unison just saying F you, just using language that I couldn't believe that they're talking to me like that. And the whole time, I'm still trying to be friendly and just... I just couldn't believe it escalated so quickly. So somebody from across the room must have seen the look on this guy's face. He was the biggest one, like right in my face, kind of burly. He comes over and grabs the guy by both shoulders. This guy is literally holding him back. He's in my face screaming, F you, F you. And I said to the gentleman, I don't know why I didn't walk away, but I said to him, if my husband and 4 sons were standing here, you wouldn't talk to me like this, sir. Yes, I would. Just all of them just screaming and hollering. And then the gentleman that I joked about him voting for J.B. Pritzker, he comes over with another gentleman and kind of lead me away. They kind of put me onto the side. And I said, I grew up in some of the toughest neighborhoods in the city. I've never been spoken to like that. I cannot believe that happened. Now, this room has about 200 people in it. Maybe some people thought they were reacting to something horrible that I had done. They hadn't heard it. But the other people at that table knew how I came up and knew how I addressed them. So I'm shocked that more people didn't hop up and defend me. And, I couldn't believe it. So I said, I realized that I had to leave. There was no sense of trying to finish the 8 or so tables that I had left. So as I'm walking out, the 3 people that were in my face swearing, they're at the bar like nothing happened. I'm walking out shaking, and they're just like, this is another day. And I'm thinking, this is the climate. This is how they treat people when you come here. And I couldn't resist because I'm just Stephanie. I was raised on the west side of Chicago. We always engage each other. And if somebody attacks you verbally or whatever, you come right back. And I just said to them as I'm walking out, I said, well, you guys have a blessed day. I said, you're just mad at me because I'm not a Democrat. They didn't respond. They didn't say anything. I just walked to my car. I'm shaking and did my very first Facebook Live in the whole time I've been on the campaign trail because I wanted to capture what was going on and at that moment, and I didn't want to chalk this up to just, this is something that happens on campaign trail. Now, the Saturday before, I was with the Black Contractors Construction Union at a Rainbow Push event. This is deep Democrats, Black folks talking about how the white construction unions are racist to them and their policies. But
I'm telling you, they hold them back, and the Black Democrat legislators in Springfield know this. Will Davis know this. He spoke. I was the minority spokesperson on the Labor and Commerce Committee, which I called the Labor Not Commerce Committee, because that's what it was about. It was all about labor. It wasn't about business whatsoever. And Will Davis even hesitated voting for pro-union bills because he knew that their rules are written in such a way as to exclude many minorities from participating in these really high-paying, lucrative union jobs. He knows it. They all know it. And they still kowtow him down there because they're told to by Madigan, by whoever. They work the deals out. They keep him funded for their campaigns. They keep people away. So they're in on it too. But go ahead.
It just shocked me because I had spent the Saturday before and I'm learning, talking to these construction worker owners about passing by sites in Black neighborhoods, and there are no Black people working on those particular sites.
Okay, all right.
And they were just opening my eyes as to how this whole process works and how these companies will come in and bring in their whole crew. And there's not one person from the community. All
right, I understand that, but let me give you the other side of that, because my husband worked for a shop to do lots of infrastructure work in Chicago.
All right.
And you're right. The alderman would literally drive by and say, I'm going to shut you down because you do not have any Blacks on your crew. Well, he's got 7 Hispanics, and a couple white guys. Okay. And because the crew didn't have, and maybe 1 Black, I don't even know. But, because the crew was the majority Black working in a Black neighborhood, they would shut them down. He's like, I get what the union gives me for work. I'm the contractor to oversee the project. I get what they do. This also happened in Englewood. Totally shut down a project, said, you're going to hire this person or we're shutting you down. So I'm telling you, Black Democrats down there that don't have the union jobs, they will force the conversation on these projects. What's shameful about it is they should be forcing the conversation with these unions who are keeping these people away from the jobs.
There are so many opportunities to take people in those neighborhoods to get them in apprenticeship program, to have them ready. We should have the most qualified people, and it would be great if you could get people that are from that community that need jobs. And I just didn't realize how complicated it was, this whole process, and how
But
people
an alderman coming by and literally saying, they're doing public work. Okay, they're doing public work.
Right.
And oh, by the way, I'd like to remind people of this. Chicago can't get a damn thing done. They're so inefficient. The permitting process was basically shut down for 2 years. You couldn't get a permit drawn to do the work even if you wanted to. Delay after delay after delay. Is it any wonder that they have 400,000 homes with lead pipes in them in Chicago? Lead pipes. They think it's going to take them 50 years to actually clean that mess up, and over $8 billion. And last year, they only got 74 done. You can't get a damn thing in Chicago because the entire system is corrupt from the top on down, from the Democrats who've been running that thing for damn near 100 years. On down to the aldermen who come by and stop a project because you don't have enough black people on the crew, and it's not their fault. I'm telling you right now, my husband did work in the city. I know the stories.
It's very complicated. And personally,
it is complicated.
I've never had any experience with the union. I remember when I was 16 years old working at the Maywood McDonald's, they circulated these cards, should we unionize? And I didn't understand why I would have to pay part of my salary to this group. I'm 16 years old. I didn't understand unions. And somebody said to me, the organizer, well, if you lose your job, we'll help you get your job back. So I declined to sign the card because I thought, well, I'm not going to lose my job. I'm just going to work hard and do well. And I know unions in the beginning and what they were started for, to keep little kids from losing their fingers in a factory. That was awesome. But at some point they lost their way, and this power structure is just crazy. And so when I think about what happened that day, and I just didn't think that, again, we're going to chalk this up to just, opponents that didn't like me.
I'm sorry, these were white men.
White
men.
Two white men and a white woman. Now just think, Jeanne,
two white men and a white woman basically yelling in your face, F you, at a nice country club to an event that you were literally invited in to come and speak with them, maybe have a discussion about what's going on.
Right, and if you don't like me, just say no thank you. And I moved on so quickly. And I kept thinking, what if a black woman candidate was invited to a Tea Party or Right of Center event to speak, paid her money like I did, and was shouted down by three white people at an event that was, with conservatives or Republican? How long before Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton would have been out there with news cameras and crew in front of that place, threatening to close it down? Not even just the union, but the facility, any of the caterers, everybody associated with this would have to be dragged through the mud because how dare you? And I'm just so fed up that the only time I've ever been spoken to like that are by white Democrats. And, there's a show that you and I have both been on before. They have 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I went on this show, and I always joke that I'm the least qualified person in the room. I'm just going to show up.
Bruce Dumont's Beyond the Beltway.
And so this one particular show, I'm sitting there talking to an author and professor, and whatever the topics, you know how it goes. It's just he'll have a list of topics. And I said, well, children that live in the suburbs have a better quality of life, because I'm speaking from experience why I moved my kids out of Chicago. So he disagreed with me. So when we went to commercial, I just further expanded that some of these kids have to go to these failing schools in their zip code. They don't have an option to go to a quality school. And I said to him, do you have any children? And where do you live? Well, he lived in Merchandise Mart, and he didn't have any children. I said, well, sir, I have 5 kids, and I'm just trying to give you the facts as to why I made my statement. Do you know he said F you to me on the commercial break? Just right there in front of everybody.
Well, you know what, Bruce Dumont, Bruce is an honorable, good guy.
I love him.
Obviously didn't hear
he didn't
that
hear.
remark.
I know he didn't hear.
Because I assure you, if Bruce knew about that man would never ever be invited back.
And during the commercial breaks, it's a lot of chaos, and he's doing his notes, and the guy was close enough to me, and I just thought, so here you are, an author, educated guy, a professor at a college, was talking about this book.
What college?
I don't even know.
Okay,
if
I'm
going to
look it up because I like to name names. So
no, but I just couldn't believe that
that
he would say that to me. And last fall,
he's a white liberal Democrat professor who said "F you" when you guys were on a joint radio show. I mean, these people are just the worst.
They're the worst. And last fall when the rumor was that I was going to run for state rep, I hadn't announced. I was waiting for them to finalize the maps. But the room, it was the worst kept secret. Everybody knew I was running. So I show up to pray at this abortion clinic where I had been praying all month. Because I was unemployed, I picked a day every week for the 40 Days for Life. I showed up and met the most amazing people all month. The last day, it was a Saturday, and I had been out of town every Saturday in October. But I said, I'm free. I'm going to go over there. And I said to my sister, I'm going to pray at the abortion clinic. And she said, isn't it a little bit more volatile on Saturdays? I said, well, I've never been there. And she says to me, I'm going to call mommy and tell her not to go. Tell you not to go. And I said, oh, these are passive people. What are they going to do to me? So I'm talking to a couple people when I get out of my car. They're ending their shift, and they're just telling me what's going on. And I can see it's a little bit more commotion for, normally it was nobody out there on Tuesdays. And so as soon as I get out of the car, the moment I'm walking up, this woman from my town told these teenage boys who I was. I had never seen these gentlemen before in my life. I walk onto the ground, and the first thing they say to me, if you think you're going to run against my representative, blah, 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 we're going to take you down. And this woman is dressed like a witch. She's doing this on Facebook Live. She towers over me. The first thing she says to me, this woman is a racist. Now, I'm a black woman with 5 black kids, couldn't wait to go home and tell them that I was a racist. And she's just screaming and yelling, how dare you, you're not going to run against my representative. And this be just, there was a whole graveyard of just all these political signs, all JB signs and this other woman and a couple other Democrats. And all I kept thinking about, isn't that white privilege that you're telling me that I can't run against your representative? Who are you to yell at me? I couldn't believe that.
These people are nuts.
They're unbelievable. So these teenage
That
boys.
would be Tara Costa Howard. So you were going to run against Tara Costa Howard, who's one of the worst Democrats.
Everywhere I go, that was been a sentiment when I said I'm thinking about, people were like, yes, she's got to go. And now we've got a great woman, Stephanie Hood.
Stephanie Hood is awesome.
I'm so excited. But I just couldn't get over that these teenage boys were in my face. One of them was about 6'3", walked next to me. I'm holding a sign, let's just pray to end abortion. And he's just in my face trying to get me to react to him. And I just said, this kid doesn't know me, but just because she whispered in the 10 seconds it took me to get from my car to that sidewalk, this is woman. And I've only been talked to like that and disrespected by tolerant progressives that say they're inclusive and they love everybody, but only if you agree with them. And that's just...
Yeah, what happened to Hate Has No Home here?
Yeah. It reminds me...
Which, by the way, that is a hoax. That entire sign was a hoax. It was based on a hoax.
Oh, really?
Yes. You don't know that? Okay, Lori Higgins with Illinois Family Institute.
Yes.
Let's just talk about that real quick, because I find it. If it comes up, we need to actually.
Well, in full disclosure, I worked for you in 2020, and that was a weird year to be my first time working on the campaign in the climate that mask and going to people's houses, and I was terrified. And those BLM signs, the Hate Has No Home Here signs, were everywhere in the Tony suburbs of where I was canvassing. And that's when I would say an extra prayer when I would see those signs, because I know Hate Has No Home Here unless a black Republican knocks on their door, and just the arrogance of, why are you a Republican? And just in my face. And I kept trying to be professional. No, ma'am, I'm just here to talk about these survey questions. It'll take 30 seconds. And this woman came down her stairs at me. And I kept thinking, where's that pepper spray my son gave me? It was in my car. And I just couldn't believe that these were the people that I was most concerned. If they had a BLM sign, we love them. And those were the ones that I knew.
They're going to be in your face.
They're going to be so
They're going to be angry in your face, aggressive,
yeah.
Not want to have a conversation about how fiscally bankrupt this state is, not want to have a conversation about 2 million illegals coming across the border, not have a
Nothing
conversation about bailouts of student loans that are just
here, you threw
ridiculous.
a phenomenal Memorial Day picnic for our volunteers. A group across the street from us, all white people with Black Lives Matter signs. On our side, we had Asian, Mexican, Black, just celebrating Memorial Day weekend. And they're over there just protesting, a bunch of people just celebrating Memorial Day weekend. And then I remember one lady in a brand new BMW pulled up to the light here. It was convertible and gave us 2 middle fingers up. And I'm just like, why? Because we're out here just, I can't, the arrogance, and they just have no problem with getting in your face, being so angry with you.
The arrogance of Tara Costa Howard, who filed legislation to prevent parents from standing outside their school district headquarters and protesting the mask mandate. Right. She filed legislation on behalf of the school district.
Yeah,
and the school in coordination with them to shut that down. I mean, they don't care about free speech, but they will get in your face all the time about it. I mean, okay, this is just, I'm going to dovetail on this because I think it's great. I think I'd love to remind people of this. Lori Higgins put this all together. She wrote this article on June 29th, 2019. It was right after the Jussie Smollett hoax, right? And she's like, okay, well, there's more hoaxes too. Okay. On your leisurely summer walks, have you seen those yard signs that cropped up all over Illinois and other states over the past 3 years? You know, the ones with the banal expression, hate has no home here. Who would disagree with such a statement, and therefore, why a yard sign? Well, there's text and then there's subtext in history. On November 5th, here's the history on those signs. 2016, exactly 1 week after the election. Oh, November 15th, sorry. On November 15th, 2016, exactly 1 week after the election of President Donald Trump, NBC News Chicago reported that bisexual student Taylor Volk, then a senior at the purportedly Christian North Park University, said she had received 2 anonymous emails and a note taped to her door that contained homophobic slurs, harassing, threatening language, and references to Trump. Volk further claimed that such occurrences were a nationwide epidemic. Just 3 days later, on November 18, it was breathlessly reported that 6 social justice warriors, actually 7, from the North Park neighborhood had already created the yard signs. Kurt Peterson, Barbara Nordland, see, she likes to name names, Steve Valence-Luce, Megan Trenter, Carmen Rodriguez, Jeannie Marie Olson, and Catherine Corda were the eager, hate-hating beavers who had yard signs ready to go just 3 days after the traumatized Volk was interviewed by the press. But then things took an unexpected turn, though why it was unexpected is surprising. A week after Volk's story made the news, an investigation revealed her entire story was, wait for it, a hoax.
Go figure.
But progressives can't let either a crisis or a hoax go to waste. Gotta mine those hoaxes for propaganda gold. So with very little press on the hoax, the Gang of 7 were able to disseminate their banal virtue signaling yard signs around the country and even the world, although oddly the website doesn't mention the hoax in the group's background myth. So it was all a hoax.
They're
She
always
admitted.
ready. Always ready to protest. Signs ready to go. It's what they do best. It's unbelievable. My yard sign in 2020, I had a lot of yard signs. I had a giant Trump sign in my yard. I got anonymous letters mailed to me that my sign disgusted them and they wanted to take a different way home because of my yard sign.
Meanwhile, the left had no problem writing the C word on my signs running for Congress. And no problem at all. All those Glen Ellen moms, oh, you guys are real classy. Mm-hmm. Those signs up everywhere, and you vote for Sean Casten, who very divisive. I don't get it. I don't get it. These people are haters. Back to the Teamsters, though. Mm-hmm. So the 3 people are at the bar. You say have a blessed day. They don't say anything. They're partying on, having their second, third, fourth beer by that time, more than likely. And they just think that they're fine.
And no one as of yet has reached out from that organization to say, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry."
Did you mention anything to the leadership?
Well, one of the guys, he was one of the ones that came. He and another guy that came over to talk to me, like I'm sorry, kind of thing, or just like to remove me from that situation. But no one has. When I said I'm leaving, he didn't say, "Don't leave." This is no. I just left, and again, they were treated like that's no big deal. Normally, when someone does something like that, you would ask them to leave, or you tell them to calm down or something. It was as if they just went back to normal. Let's eat our food, our lunch, and have another drink. Maybe they had liquid courage. I don't know what was going on with them, but I just couldn't believe that nobody, probably about 5 people, seemed to be shocked by what they were doing. It just seemed to be another day at another luncheon, and it's just unfortunate. This is my first time running for office. And so everything is, I'm having the time of my life, by the way. This is amazing. And now I understand why people do it. Mm-hmm. And the more I travel this wonderful state, I get what we're fighting for. People shouldn't have to leave. And I'm just meeting some of the most amazing people. So this one incident, I kind of said on my Facebook Live, if they think this is going to deter me, they think this is going to keep me from doing what we're doing. Overall, the response from so many people, it's just positive, even for Democrats that are just tired of how things are going.
It is positive for them. But I mean, positive. I think that they're on the edge. Let's face it, the unions are on edge, and I don't know why. They completely control the state.
I don't get it.
There's not a single piece of legislation that does not get their imprimatur on it before it's passed out of the legislature with Democrat supermajorities and Pritzker in office. I mean, they get everything they want, and they want more. And here's the problem, though. The Teamsters have been mismanaged. Their leadership does not look out for their members, which is why it's interesting that there were some members there at this Teamster event that obviously were open to a conversation with you, because they know, some of them know the truth. I mean, this is the Teamsters, let's remember who their leader was, Jimmy Hoffa. for all those years, right? But their leadership has bankrupted their own pension systems. Just a few years ago, they were $35 billion in the red. They had to get bails out by the Pension Guarantee and Benefit Corporation. Central State pension system is bankrupt. It's horrible until what did Joe Biden do? Oh, yeah. What did Joe Biden do? Well, we know what he did. Joe Biden signed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan into law, bringing relief to more than 200 multi-employer pension plans teetering on the edge of financial disasters. For more than 2 decades of work, finally the Teamsters have found their savior in Joe Biden and your tax dollar, which is saving their retirement. That's what he did with your tax dollars in the American Rescue Plan, the $1.9 trillion. He saved the Teamsters pension plan, at least for now.
Right.
At least for now. There's no guarantee, given their leadership, that it will not be squandered away again. The Teamsters, they should be embarrassed. They're the ones who don't need to have more power. And in Illinois, if you vote for Amendment 1, you're foolish. You might as well give your PIN number to your ATM account. You might as well just give them your PIN number.
Just surrender everything.
And you might as well just, sign your house over to them.
So
because it is going to bankrupt you and this state if Amendment 1 passes. It is the most detrimental piece of legislation to the future growth of our state, bar none.
I know suddenly conservative groups are talking about it, and that's where I've heard about it from. Are the Democrats, is J.B. Pritzker coming out running on this? Is he bragging about this? Is this
No,
something
of course
that
not.
That's something,
of course
when
not.
they're not talking about it, that's something you really need to look at.
Well, and it's euphemistically called the Workers' Rights Amendment.
It's the
good
opposite.
grief. It is the
opposite.
Unions' Rights Amendment, making everybody else subservient to every demand that they want to have. Listen, when they enshrine in the Constitution a union's right to protect their own economic welfare, which is an open-ended,
very vague. Right, yeah.
vague.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
That means that you never, ever can diminish anything that's in a contract at any time. That is what's going to happen here.
Now, normally, I don't know, is the amendment, that's at the bottom of the ballot? Is that something that a lot of people...
They typically are at the bottom of the ballot.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
I don't know if a lot of people will just skip that or people just go...
Well, they have to get 60% of the people who voted to vote for it in order for it to pass. That is a hard threshold. But again, there's no opposition group really running the opposition. Now, the vote yes for workers' rights, those people have a few $1 million that they've been spending on ads and everything to make you think that this nurse is going to, have, lose her job with no, nothing to catch her if she were to lose her job. That's not true. That's not true because private unions are controlled with federal government legislation. That's where private unions get their control. So a couple things about this. It may very well be unconstitutional, but this is all about public sector union control, not private sector union control, and they better damn well figure it out.
Yeah, it's up to us as conservatives or taxpayers, people that love Illinois. That's the last thing we need is yet another opportunity to raise our taxes and to give up more power to the unions. And it's just unbelievable it just seems so clear cut and just common sense that we have to make some changes at the top of the ticket because what J.B. Pritzker, his policies are just ruining our state. And I've been telling people, think of your scariest, type of horror film and think of the sequel. J.B. Pritzker Part 2 is the scariest thing, scarier than Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. Can you imagine all these taxes and fees that he froze or suspended? They're going to come back January 1st, supersized, ready to go. And you think about the Safety Act. If it's such a great act, why did they wait to implement it to after the midterms?
I'm doing a little plug here because we are having an entire conversation on the Safety Act. We've got Judge Dave Carlson coming, Bob Berlin, Sheriff Mendrake, and Matt Rosenberg from Wire Points, who writes about all the crime statistics. They're coming October 13th. I just got confirmation that the judge can be there. So you're going to hear an entire, all about the Safety Act and what it means for each one of these professionals. You've got somebody who knows all the facts about it. You've got a sheriff who has to actually arrest these people. You've got a prosecutor in Bob Berlin that has to prosecute them. They have a judge who has to sit there and understand it, what it means, adherence to that law, what it means in his courtroom. And he is actually the judge in charge in Will County for criminal prosecution. So criminal cases, rather. So so it's going to be an experienced panel that is, honestly, they're very frightened if this does not get repealed. or change significantly, then they are very frightened for the safety of all of Illinoisans. So that panel is October 13th. It'll be at the Abington Banquets at 7 p.m. So, but it's like it's issues like this, it's policies like this that politics matters. It does matter, and it's frightening. It's frightening that people are so short-sighted and in their grasp of it, because at the end of the day, if the Teamsters get Amendment 1, guess what? It only hurts them. It will only hurt them. People will flee this state. If that passes, literally, it's time to start to put your house on the market and look for another place to set up shop. No. It's very, very detrimental.
Every policy of J.B. Pritzker is death, destruction, is taxes, is just another reason for people, as you said, to put their house on the market, especially in the suburbs where we live. The last kid graduates, they put the graduation sign out next to the for sale sign, and they just decide, I can't live here anymore. But after traveling this wonderful state and meeting people that are third, fourth, fifth generation farmers, they have businesses they can't leave. They have grandkids or grandparents. And then I was been thinking, I'm like, so why should they have to leave? We have to stay here and fight for this wonderful state. I live, 3 or 4 blocks from my granddaughter. It would break my heart if one of us had to leave because of the policies and the conditions here in Illinois. And it's
a man-made. It's actually a man-made disaster. That's to me the most frustrating thing. Is that it doesn't have to be this way. No. Just to the east of us, we've got our slimmer, sexier sister in Indiana that is a much more better run state. Yeah. So
we know it can be done in the Midwest.
We know it can be done. There's no doubt. And actually, we are the behemoth. We are the 5th largest GDP in the nation. We have far more resources available to us than any other state in our surrounding states. Honestly, we're well positioned to actually be a leader. Our policies are holding us back. And I guess maybe it's the mother in me, but you hate to see wasted potential.
Right.
And me and your kids, you're like, but you have the potential to do this, you can do that, right?
You can do it.
You hate to see it wasted in a state. This state should be exploding with our potential relative to other states.
Right, for sure.
And we've got all the smart people in Northwestern, University of Illinois,
Chicago.
University of Chicago,
right.
We got all these smart people. Okay, we got all these big businesses, and we can't get our act together politically to make policies that make sense for everyone. Give me a break. It's embarrassing.
When a major company like Portillo's, who was started here in 1973, has decided that they don't want to invest in our state, they don't have the confidence, and they'd rather go to Arizona, Texas, or Florida. That's a punch in the face. Really?
They literally said that.
They said nope. They want states that are in migration, booming economy. No offense, Illinois, but that doesn't describe you. In addition to the other major corporations that have fled, this should be a wake-up call for everybody. They're not fleeing for any other reasons other than J.B. Pritzker's policies. They don't feel safe. Their taxes are way too high. The conditions in general are just not friendly to families and businesses. And the more and more I hear about all these little southern suburbs that are paying some of the highest property taxes,
they are.
They don't have water. What is going on? I went to a community not too far.
Well, maybe Thaddeus Jones, Will Davis will speak up for their. These are Black Democrats down there. They should know better. Fort Heights, Park Forest. Literally some of the highest property tax rates in the entire state in some of the poorest communities.
They pay off their mortgages and basically drop the keys and leave because they still can't pay the taxes.
That's right.
It's unbelievable. And it just breaks my heart. And when you go and talk to these people, oh, no, I'm voting for J.B. Pritzker. Why? What?
Why are you voting for Thaddeus Jones?
Just for more. And then I went to a community not too far from here. They don't have natural gas piped into their community. And when I said, one of the mayors said to me, well, everybody on our levels have all agreed on it. But there's some legislator in Chicago that's on the lobby for propane or whatever and fighting this. So these people can't have natural gas. They have to have propane tanks.
Well, wait a minute, Stephanie. The Democrats and shamefully 11 Republicans voted to completely get rid of natural gas in the state of Illinois. Completely. We don't need natural gas. We don't need no. Everybody's going to retrofit their homes. Get rid of your gas dryer. Get rid of your gas furnace. These people are nuts. They're absolutely crazy.
You talk to a chef like my husband and tell him that he's got to cook on an electric stove. He's going to lose his mind.
Exactly. I'll lose my mind. I'm not even a real chef. I mean, I had to cook on. I was at my mom's house, and I had to cook on electric. I'm like, oh, it's hard.
It's hard. It's unbelievable that people that live amongst us are living in sometimes almost third world conditions, and things we take for granted, clean water, and they just and they're fighting
400,000 lead pipes in Chicago.
Yeah, it's like, come on, this is a city that works. There's no reason why we shouldn't be
you can't say that anymore. It doesn't work.
No,
honestly,
it
it's so sad. It doesn't work.
It's really, and it's unfortunately Illinois has turned into the museum of what used to be yesterday. Everybody, when I go to these amazing towns, and they'll say, this used to be this factory. We used to have that. And even when I traveled into my old neighborhood and did my first press conference, all I could think about how all the major retailers were right there on Madison and Pulaski. As a 15-year-old kid, I'd take my McDonald's paycheck. I wouldn't even have to leave my community and spend my money right there. But I was standing literally in a vacant lot of garbage, graffiti everywhere, no grocery store chains over there anymore. All the stores that were there are gone. You only have one major chain selling, gym shoes. And I got to see my first open air drug deal. I mean, I've seen the drug dealers standing out there for years, but I actually got to see the transaction happen. And it's just, we got to do something different. And then when you engage with people and they just feel hopeless, because I think about when I used to walk up to Madison Street and the beautiful buildings and the architecture, and it was clean and it was safe. But now these kids get up, there's graffiti, there's garbage. They're going to a high school that was built for 1,300 people, but there's 64 people in that building.
Yep.
High school is supposed to be this bustling hallways and fun. And how do you have a football team if it's 84 people in your school? I mean, unbelievable.
How do you do anything with 84 people in your high school?
Right. And then the fact that even though there's only 64 people or 84 people, that means you should have really small classes and the kids should be doing very well. They're not proficient in math and reading. It's just unacceptable that everything is lesser than in the communities that used to have so much pride. We work local, we shop local, we looked out for each other, and now to me it's unrecognizable, and that just breaks my heart. It shouldn't be no question when we go over and say, hi, I'm with Darren Bailey, these are our plans, this is our platform. They should be all in, but somehow we're out there, though. The message is resonating, and all I can tell people is what I know and my experience, and just to say there is hope.
Well, speaking about that drug deal, why don't you talk to LaShawn Ford, because he represents the west side of Chicago, and he voted for that bill to defelonize up to 3 grams of fentanyl. He voted for that.
Why?
Yeah, because they're pandering to criminals. They're pandering to criminals. They're part of the Black Caucus. The Black Caucus is essentially controlling the state. So I don't understand why they think that they have all this control. They passed the Safety Act. They passed this bill to basically defelonize hard drugs, hard illegal drugs, by the way, illegal drugs.
Right.
And they run the state. You're in Illinois under Chris Welch as Speaker of the House, and with their super majorities, they run it. Yeah. The Black Caucus runs the state.
Right.
So don't talk to me about systemic racism. They run the state. They run Cook County with Preckwinkle, who's black. They run the city with Lori Lightfoot, who's black.
Right.
They run the state. I don't want to hear about systemic racism. They run the state, and on top of it, their party runs all the school districts.
It's unbelievable to me. They're getting fatter and richer.
So I don't hear anything about it.
Right, and you can't blame anybody else. They're always looking for a white Republican to blame. And as you said, they've been running the city since the 30s. They've been in charge. They have more elected black officials than any other state in the country. So don't tell me about, it's these white people keeping you from doing this. And they just need to hold their elected officials accountable. They show up every 2 years, every 4 years, promising you
they run
this and that.
The CPS could not be a bigger disaster.
Oh, and when I had my radio show on, I always had Democrats in my studio, and in between, during the commercial breaks, I would casually say, "Oh, what school do your kids go to?" Only one gentleman said that his kids attended a school in his neighborhood. It wasn't long after he got with the right group and he moved to a better neighborhood. But they always made sure their kids got into the Whitney Youngs, or they were praying for private school. I never had one elected official other than that one who was a candidate to say, oh, my kids just go to the school in my neighborhood. They make sure that their kids are clouded into where they need to be.
Absolutely.
They're going to take care of their own, and you can't blame them. But why they don't care if their policies hurts the regular people, the people that aren't connected, the people that can't get clouded into the selective
Chris
Roman
Welch,
schools.
he's a black Democrat. His kids go to a private school.
Yeah.
They go to Timothy Christian. Everybody knows that.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, they go to a Christian school.
And that's good.
And so they're not subjected to all
suffering.
the awful sexualization, indoctrination, low test scores that everybody else is. So what the hell's your problem, Chris Welch? How about school choice for everybody?
Right.
I mean, and I say this, Stephanie, because people need to connect the dots here.
They do.
Right? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of great people, a lot of great black teachers, black folks doing wonderful stuff.
All means,
I mean, Derek Crenshaw is doing a great job in Glenbard South here. I mean, I have a lot of friends who work their butt off on this stuff. Mm-hmm. But the leadership who wants to claim systemic racism is
for everything, and they shouldn't. And that's what all we're asking is that hold your people, your elected officials accountable. They made all these promises. If they don't live up to them, this is the time to make a change. And we just have to,
maybe those Teamsters can find solace in all the stuff that the politicians are going to hand them. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's just unbelievable. But I'm so motivated. I'm so excited when people have kind of given up on Illinois, but now people are getting involved. It's almost like a Tea Party revolution part 2. You go, I speak at these patriot groups, and I'll ask them, how long have you been in existence? Oh, 9 months, 18 months. It's 100 people in the room. We got involved right after the 2020. We understand what's going on, and they want to volunteer, and they're showing up to get trained to be poll watchers, because if we're going to be like Virginia, they had 95% of their precincts covered. We're using the Virginia model to get volunteers, to get them trained, certified, ready to show up in Chicago, Cook County, and other collar counties we're going to be watching.
Let's kind of close this out. I mean, it's been a great conversation with you, and I feel for you because I have felt the same sort of attack specifically from the unions.
I know you have.
It happened to me when I was at the Southside Irish Parade. We were in a bar afterwards, and this guy started shouting at me from across the bar. I mean, I thought my husband was going to go over there and punch him out. We left. People kept us apart. I mean, they're awful people. They think they're so right, and yet the state could not be in worse shape because they have actually ceded control to the unions, and so we're just completely upside down on anything budget-wise. That's why your property taxes are higher, because the unions keep demanding more through all these public sector contracts, whether it's your city, your school, whatever. So, Stephanie, how can people get involved in being a poll watcher, for example, if they want to help?
Well, you go to our website and our Facebook page and other social media. We're on everything. BaileyForIllinois.com. We have a great team set up. Voter integrity, working with Carol Davis and Illinois Conservative Union, just an amazing group. And we get it. We understand. We're not taking anything for granted. We have so many volunteers. Even during the primary, we had 10,000 volunteers across the state. I know those numbers have increased now that we're the last man standing. And so my message is to tell everybody, when your friends say, oh, it's a fait accompli, J.B. Pritzker is going to win, he's got the most money. No, you don't need $100 million to defeat him. We need money, obviously, to get our ads up and running. So if you can donate, that's great. But also we need informed people that are willing to get up and act and actually help us and volunteer. Whatever you can do, we greatly appreciate it. It's so much easier now to make phone calls. You can sign up and you want to be part of that if you can't get out and knock doors. But we're just so fired up. And every time we go out and we meet people, and here we are in Bud Billiken, the traditionally black parade down King Drive, 93 years of this being the biggest parade, second only to the Rose Parade. Mm-hmm. And when you have people screaming out in front of their neighbors, they don't care. I love you, Darren Bailey. I'm going to pray a prayer of anointing over you. And is that Darren Bailey? Oh, my goodness, I want to get a picture with him. People get it. He's something about him. And I tell everybody, if you get an opportunity, he's anywhere in your area, come out and try to meet him, because 5 minutes into a conversation with him, He's genuine. He's authentic. And he's just has the backbone. I copied this from you, as you said in an event, at one of our events, that nobody else other than Darren Bailey and Tom DeVore, as people up here would say, two hicks from south of 80, stood up to J.B. Pritzker and sued him and said, no, you can't do that. No one else on Michigan Avenue in the $6,000 suits never came out and stood up for our kids. Darren Bailey has shown you that he knows how to navigate Springfield. He has a backbone. He's not going to waver. And he's exactly what we need to restore Illinois.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Terrific. And I think the team might have to go to Boss Dogs for hot dogs today.
That would be great. We got a couple new hot dogs, Wild Wild West and Dog Days. And very good, I have to tell you. It's my biggest goal is not to eat more than 2 orders of fries a week. I'm going between the Lincoln Day dinners and all the fairs and now my husband's fries.
So for my listeners, Stephanie and her husband opened up a brand new restaurant called Boss Dogs. It's one of the top 10 now.
We've made it to the top 5 after 12 weeks in business.
After 12 weeks in business. It's right on Route 53 and Maple in Lisle.
We bake our own buns and we cut our own fries.
And the fries are awesome.
It's amazing. And my husband's a gifted chef that's come up with, we're doing the regular classic Chicago stuff.
Hungry.
But he's come up with some great combinations that I'm just in awe of what he can decide. Bacon, cheese, and pico. I'm like, who knew? And that's our boss classic. Number 1 dog is our boss classic. And I would have never, ever thought to put pico on a hot dog, but it works.
Right. Okay, well, thanks a lot for listening, and thanks
pleasure.
for coming in and letting us give us that update, and telling us exactly what you're facing on the campaign trail. It's difficult out there. Appreciate your candidates, folks. Thanks for joining me on The Real Story with Jeanne Ives. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, AM 560. We're in their podcast listing too. Also, we are helping support, and we are a major contributor to the AM 560 Freedom Fest. Is that what they call it, JP? What do they call it?
Freedom Summit.
Freedom Summit.
Yeah.
It's November 5th. It's up here in Itasca, and we are the book sponsors for that. So we're excited about that. Looking forward to seeing you at Freedom Summit. If you want tickets, you better get them right away because they're going to go like hotcakes. Okay, thanks a lot for joining me on The Real Story.